Hey, Boker Tov. Good morning, everyone. This week we are studying Parashat Yitro. Parashat Yitro has the whole famous Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments. I will address it and we'll speak about that as well, but there's a couple of parts before that. Let's try to get through it as much as we can. So the Parashat begins by talking about Yitro. Who was Yitro? Yitro, or Jethro. Yitro was Moshe's father-in-law. Moshe Rabbeinu married the daughter of a Midianite Kohen, a Midianite priest, in that not only was he an idol worshiper, but he was a leader and a priest of the idol worship. He was someone who was important. Yitro. And now what the Torah tells us is that, and this was like when he had run away from Egypt, when he had killed the Egyptian who was beating a Jew, he had to escape. And when he escaped, he moved to Midian, and he couldn't go and live in Egypt. He was living on his own. And he had gotten married there to this Midianite man's daughter, Tzipporah, who Chazal explained to us that she converted. Moshe brought his wife to convert. Now, after everything had happened, all of the plagues, and all of Egypt is gone, and Kiryat Yam Suf, by Shema Yitro Kohen Midian et Choten Moshe et Kol Asher Asa Elohim LeMoshe L'Shel Amo. Everyone heard what happened, including Yitro, and Yitro, who hears, comes forward. He comes forward to his son-in-law, and he has, meaning Yitro, living with him is his daughter Tzipporah and his grandkids. Moshe's two sons, Gershom and Eliezer, are living at their grandfather's home while Moshe is like going to a war zone, basically, is what it was. Now they come out of the war zone, so Yitro comes with Moshe's family, meaning Moshe's wife and kids. And he says, I heard what happened. Everyone knows that Hashem is the God. He gives a blessing to Hashem. Baruch Adonai. Adonai is not a generic name for God. It's specifically the God of the Am Yisrael. What we believe is Yud, Hey, and Vav Hey. Baruch Adonai Asher Yitzil Etchem Yad Mitzrayim. Yad Paro. He's saying, Atay Yadati Ki Gadol Adonai Mikol Elohim. Now I know that your God is greater than any other God. Wow. Imagine a priest of another religion, a prominent character, an important person, saying it's very clear that your God is the real God. Ki Adonai, your God is Ki Gadol Adonai Mikol Elohim. It's very clear. So Chachamim are explaining that essentially Yitro is converting. Who says, like, your God is real, but I'm going to stay here. No, when he says, I know that your God is real, it's a form of converting to Judaism, to accepting the God of Am Yisrael. Very, very beautiful part. Then we get into this next section, which I think is very interesting. The Torah will tell us how Moshe, the next day, or one of the next coming days, Yitro sees that Moshe is judging Am Yisrael. So what does it mean, judging Am Yisrael? He's sitting there, waiting. There's a long line of people standing outside the door, just like, any sample sale you would imagine. There's a whole long line of people standing there, waiting to come ask halachic questions from Moshe Rabbeinu, of what the law should be. Two people have a dispute, they have a disagreement, some monetary case, some other type of damaged case. They come and they ask Moshe, what's the right thing to do? And Moshe is there from morning to night, just standing there ready to answer their questions. So there's two things that's amazing about this. Number one, the fact that they're even asking. If someone does and wants to steal, or they have some sort of dispute, they just handle it themselves. Imagine being a slave nation when someone, as a slave, you didn't own anything, and your master would just hit you, beat you. You didn't have any rights, and now you're in this world where I not only have rights, but I need to respect the rights. I need to respect the law and order. And when there's a question, I have to go to the authority to find out what's the right answer. It shows it's such a great testament to how Am Yisrael was a special nation, how they wanted to do what's correct and follow the laws. And Moshe is saying, if they're coming, they're asking me the questions, how do I not answer them? Because what Yitro says is, what are you doing? The people aren't going to stick this through. How long do you think people are going to wait on lines to ask you their questions? I can tell you myself, sometimes a person will text me, and if I don't answer their text in the next 3 minutes, it's like, they go, how dare you not look at my text? And this is what people will expect, that you're available at every minute. And if you answer a text, you don't answer a text, they'll send another one, and then they'll give you a phone call. And how do you not answer my phone call? follow up with another one, leave a voicemail. This is what people expect today. Imagine back then, someone had a question, you'd have to wait online a whole day, and then at the end of the day, they'll say, sorry, come back tomorrow. So Yitro is saying people are not going to stick it through. They'll give up, and you're going to burn out. Instead, what you should do is you should build a judicial system. You will be the head court, but you'll have courts that are under you, and they'll have courts that are under them, and they'll have judges and courts under them, and then you'll have a judge that deals with local cases, a judge that will deal with people, 10 people, like each block or each area, or, each group of tents, 10 tents, 20 tents, or wherever people are living, you have a judge, train them. Not telling them just go away, train them, teach them Torah, teach them the laws. If they know the answer, they'll deal with it. If they don't, they bring it up. They send it up to the next level. If they know it, great. If not, they send it up until eventually you'll teach Am Yisrael. People won't have to wait online. They don't have to go anywhere. They could just go down the block to their local judge. Yitro was training Moshe to build a judicial system, and Moshe accepted. It says, the Torah tells us that, he ran it by Hashem. Hashem said, what do you think? Hashem said, beautiful, do it. Meaning Hashem didn't tell him to do this. Yitro told him to do this. And he listened. It's a very beautiful section. The difficult matters they would bring up to Moshe, but the simple ones, the local courts would deal with. Okay, that's this very important section. Maybe if I have time, I'll come back to it. Then we get to the section of the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments. Okay, what before we get into that, the Torah tells us that Hashem picks Am Yisrael and says to them that I want you now to enter a berit. A berit is a covenant. As we say in the Brachot HaShachar in the morning, being a Jew, the way we say it in the Tefillah is Bnei Berit. People who are part of the covenant, part of the deal, part of the treaty with Hashem. And when Hashem is asking us, it's like, I'm going to ask you to be part of a covenant, a part of a treaty, that what your job will be is Atem Tiyulim Mamlechet Kohanim B'Goy Kadosh. You will be a holy people, a holy nation, a nation of priests. What does that mean to be a nation of priests? As you said, you have, let's say, for example, you have a religion and people are following the religion, and you have the priest that's guiding them on how to serve in that religion. The priest is someone who is giving guidance to the people of how to serve properly, or how to act properly. Same concept. Hashem is saying, I want to build that model with nations of the world. How the Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, will be my nation of Kohanim, my nation of priests, in which you will be the role model of how to act the proper way. It's a major responsibility. It's not to say that Am Yisrael is better than the other nations. It's not to say that you're better than someone else. You should be an Am Segula, a treasured nation, but there's a reason for it. We're a treasured nation, a nation that's held to higher standards, because what we're supposed to do is to show the world how to act in a proper way. So again, we're all the children of Hashem. Jewish people, non-Jewish people, we're all the children of Hashem, and we all have to act in the proper ways. But the role of the Am Yisrael, of the Jew, is to uphold standards, to be this moral compass, to provide a role model, to be a role model, so that other people, other nations of the world, have something to look toward, to know how to act. That's the job of Am Yisrael. Now, when you're in that position, it's a tremendous responsibility, because if you act the wrong way, and people look at that and learn the wrong way, you're betraying your responsibility. You're betraying this treaty. It's not just that you're bad. No, people are looking toward you, and that's really dangerous. So this is what Hashem asks us: do you want to do this? And we accept. Whatever Hashem says, we'll do. We accept it upon ourselves to enter the covenant of Hashem, to serve as the role models, to be the light unto the nations. This is what happens this week's parasha. Wow, so powerful. And we get to the section where Hashem tells us there's going to be the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments. I'll just quickly run through what they are. The Aseret HaDibrot. The first one is Anochi Adonai Elohecha. I am God. I am Adonai, your God. Asher Hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim, who took you out of Egypt, Bet Avadim, from slavery. There's a few things worth mentioning here. Number one, there is no direct commandment here. It's a statement. I am Hashem, your God, who took you out of Egypt. what is the commandment? So the way the commentators, the way the Rambam, the way Halacha explains is that the commandment is to believe in God who took us out of Egypt. Just that when Hashem says, I am Hashem who took you out of Egypt, this mitzvah, this is the first of the 10 commandments, which is the mitzvah, is to believe in the existence of God. So when someone believes in the existence of Hashem, he is fulfilling this mitzvah. Okay, sorry, I'm just getting a phone call. He believes in believing in the existence of Hashem is the fulfillment of this first of the 10 commandments. The second one is don't believe in any other gods in addition to me. So you see, someone can say, number one is to believe in God. I believe in God, but I believe in other gods also. I believe in other gods of other religions. The second was no. The belief in Hashem is a monotheistic belief. You believe in only one God. The second one is don't believe in any other gods. Now, you might say, well, if Hashem says don't believe in any other gods, that's admitting that other gods exist, right? No. What Hashem is saying is, I know, I'm fully aware that on planet Earth, people are serving other gods that are false. Don't follow that practice, right? This is a question that I received is, well, if Hashem says don't believe in any other gods, it sounds like that means that other gods exist. In the perception of the people that they do. The reality is that people believe in other gods, and Hashem is saying, don't, because it's false. That's the second of the 10 commandments. Don't believe in other gods. The third one is, don't use God's name in vain. In vain could be many ways. It could be swearing to God for no reason. It could be swearing to God falsely. It could be swearing to God for let's say, a reason that's not necessary. So Chachamim explained to us, like, if someone picks up a rock and says, I swear in the name of God that this is a rock, you don't need to swear in the name of God that this is a rock. Or if someone picks up a rock and says, I swear in the name of God that this is a chicken, also that's swearing falsely, because it's very clearly using the name of God in vain. And in fact, the Rambam then extends this to when a person says a bracha, says a blessing, they should say it in the proper way. They should say the proper blessing, not to invoke the name of God for your conversations, and you hear this with other religions, that they just use the name of their God when something happens. For it's not a holy thing. Of course, we should use the name of Hashem, b'kedusha v'tahara, holy contexts, as part of our prayers, as part of our Torah study, as part of the way we're acting and we're dealing with each other. But to invoke the name of God just for your mundane matters because you want to, it's somewhat disrespectful. Don't do it in a disrespectful way. That's the third one. Number 4, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'Kadesho, to celebrate Shabbat, to celebrate and to keep the Shabbat. The word Zachor actually means, the way our sages explain, it means to mention Shabbat. And when do you mention Shabbat? You mention Shabbat when you say Kiddush on Friday night. On Friday night, we have the mitzvah. Halacha is to take a cup of wine. You say Yom HaShishi, Vayichulu Hashmayim Eretz Tzava'am. We say Borei Pri HaGefen. We say Baruch Ata Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat. You say the whole Kiddush. You're declaring that this day is different from the rest of the week. That is a fulfillment of this mitzvah, the 10 commandments of Zachor, to remember the Shabbat, to remember by mentioning it. You mention it at Kiddush. You also mention it at the end of Shabbat. Havdalah, right? When Shabbat is over, you say, now we're going back to the rest of the week. That statement of doing Havdalah, you hold a cup of wine, you smell the besamim, you see the candle, now I'm allowed to use a flame because it's a different day. Hashem separates between Shabbat and the rest of the week. That is sanctifying Shabbat by declaring it as a special day. That's a fulfillment of this mitzvah. So people who have the opportunity and they say Kiddush on Friday night, that's this mitzvah. People who say Havdalah on Saturday night, it's very important. Many people I know that they don't say Havdalah. It's a very important mitzvah. It's a fulfillment of the 4th commandment. Commandment number 5. Honor your father and your mother, so that God gives you a long life for it on the land that He had promised you. There's a lot of discussion about what this means, but the Torah is telling us here to honor our parents. How does someone honor their parent? Honor the parent is things that we go out of our way to do for our parents. So, for example, Halacha says Parent walks into the room, you stand up for them. You have a special seat that you have a designated seat for your parent. You don't sit in the seat of the parent. Or, for example, if a parent needs help with something, you go to help them. They need some help with buying something or doing something. There's some discussion about whether I have to spend my own money. That's what my father says, or someone's parent says, I want to buy a private jet. You wouldn't be necessarily required to spend money on it. But if a parent says, I'm buying groceries and I need some help carrying it from the car to the house, of course it's a mitzvah. A person should help a parent, to show the respect to a parent, to take care of them, to call them, to ask them how they're doing. These are things that people should learn, that people take for granted. But when someone has family, to take care of them, to speak to them, to support their family. And then there's ultimately the mitzvah kibud av va'em, also even after a parent passes away, to do things in their memory, to say the kaddish for them, to sponsor things in the ilui nishmat of their parents. These are all fulfillments of the mitzvah. Number 5, not to murder. I don't know if there's much to elaborate here. Now, it is worth mentioning that there are times where halakha says that if someone is trying to murder you, you should go ahead and murder them. If someone is coming to kill you in self-defense, you should kill them. And this is true for a nation also. If you have someone who is trying to attack your nation, it's a mitzvah to defend your nation by preventing it. And if it means having to kill, then that's what it means. But of course, the Torah is telling us here is like within a society, you should not be killing people. It's not something you should be doing. Assuming the person isn't trying to kill you, it's something, of course, a person should never do. Do not commit adultery. A person is married; they should stay in the sanctity of the union of marriage, not to go outside the marriage, not to be with someone they're not supposed to be. Lo tignov, don't steal. Our sages explain that this is actually referring to stealing humans, meaning not to kidnap. This commandment number 8 is not to kidnap human beings. Number 9 is not to give a false testimony. When you go to court to testify what happened, I saw this happen. Now, remember, number 3 was not to use God's name in vain. This isn't even about using God's name. This is even if you're not using God's name. Going to court and saying, this is what happened. When it didn't, that's going against this 9th commandment. This person hit me. This person paid this person. I witnessed this person do that. These are all would be in violation of this 9th commandment. And number 10, lo tachmod betrecha, not to be jealous, not to covet, not to desire to have something that belongs to someone else. His house, your friend's house, your friend's spouse, your friend's workers, business, monetary assets, cars, vehicles. Right? It says his ox and his donkey. These are like vehicles. Anything and everything that he owns. Don't spend your time looking at what other people have and wanting what they have. That's not how you should be spending your time. You want something for yourself. You want to achieve something for yourself. Wonderful. This is part of the drive is to want to build, to accomplish, to achieve. If you killed that fire of achievement, we would all fall. It's not telling you don't want things, saying don't want something that's your brothers or your sisters and say, I want that one. I want to marry this person. I want this house. I want to get this person out of this house because I need that house. Find your own spouse. Find your own house. Find your own ways of making this. Don't go take things from other people. And what our sages explain is that really when someone doesn't spend his time looking at what other people have and trying to take what they have, they end up being happier themselves. Right? If I always look to what other people have, then guaranteed that in every facet of your life, in every single area, there's someone who has something better than you. Like money, there's someone who has more. There's someone who has better looks. There's someone who has a better house. There's someone who has a better this. There's someone who has a better that. So if you're going to start looking and choosing and picking the best of everything, there's no end. And there's no being satisfied with life. But when a person says, I'm not going to look at what other people have, I'll try to build for myself, then it's a recipe for happiness. Okay, the parasha continues with very important parts, teaching us certain laws about the Mizbeach and certain laws of idol worship. You shouldn't build statues, very important sections of the Torah. But we'll pause here and open it up for questions. It's a very, very, very powerful parasha. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now. I'm also monitoring the chat. Anyone have any questions?
Rabbi, is respecting your brother considered part of the commandment of respecting your parents? It's about a year sometimes. Older brother.
Very good question. So is respecting, and you threw in the word there last second, buzzer beater. Is respecting an older brother a fulfillment of the mitzvah? So there is this pasuk that when it says to honor your father and your mother, it uses the word et. Kabed et avicha, which means honor your father, with the word et that really doesn't have a translation. The et imecha, and your mother. There is a basically when you see the word et in the Torah, I could explain from a grammar perspective. The word et is making the following word an object of a verb. So when you have a little bit of grammar, when you have a structure of a sentence, there's a verb. That means there's an action being done. Someone doing that action is the subject, and the one that the action is being done to is the object. So for example, if I say, I ate pasta, I am the subject, ate is the verb, and the object is the pasta, okay? So in the Torah, it's important to know that when you have the word et, it's introducing an object. That means the verb is being done to this. So it says, kabed et avicha, means honor who? You, the one I'm talking to, should honor et your father. So respect your father, ve'et imecha. Fine. But since there isn't a translation to it, and there's just like a grammatical use for it, there's a shita in the Gemara, there's an opinion in the Gemara that says every et in the Torah is coming to include another detail also. So when it says honor your father and your mother, but it uses these two extra words of et, it's coming to include a step-parent, and it's coming to include an older sibling, exactly as what you said. It's not on the same level. The respect a person has to have for an older sibling is not the same level of respect a person has to have for his parent. Parent is much, 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 much more. There's no question. So yes, you do have to respect an older sibling, not to the same level, but there is a sign of this. For example, one thing that we do, our custom is that if a father goes up for an aliyah of the Torah, the children stand up, the spouse and the children stand up. What about if it's a brother? Say if it's an older brother, you stand up.
Here's what I found.
Okay. Okay, oh, look at that. Siri is teaching me about grammar. She's listening to everything I'm saying, and she's teaching me about grammar. So for an older sibling, you would stand up. Why? To show them the respect because of exactly this idea. So yes, you show respect to your older sibling, not to the same level of the parent, but there is a source for it. Any other questions? Okay, I'll end up with one idea, just a little bit of let's just throw in some controversy just for fun. Should we stand up while the 10 Commandments are being read? Our community custom is to stand. Yesterday, my minyan, we all stood. My understanding is that almost every minyan across the community, for the Mishada community, they all stand. This is what I understand. But it's not so simple. In fact, the Gemara tells us that many years ago, there was a point where the sages established in the prayers every day to say the Aseret HaDibrot, to read the 10 Commandments. So important section, read it every day. They quickly realized that it was a mistake. Because by telling people to read this portion of the Torah every day, people started to think that this portion was more divine than the rest of the Torah. This portion of the Torah is from God. Everything else is maybe Moshe wrote it by himself or some other authors put it. They saw that singling out a part of the Torah is like singling out a favorite child. It does more harm than good. This is my favorite, so now everyone else is chopped liver. So the rest of the Torah is equally as important and is equally from Hashem. So they retracted. The custom to read the 10 Commandments every day was retracted. Based on this Gemara, you have the question of should you stand when we're reading the 10 Commandments? I'll tell you, it's different opinions. One opinion says, yes, we should. Why? It's to commemorate the fact that we stood at Har Sinai. When we were there, the Torah tells us the people were standing at the foot of the mountain. They heard the voice of God themselves. It was an awesome experience. It was a real experience. It was so powerful that it was undeniable. Everyone experienced it. The Midrashim take it to the extent that it was so out of this world that it's almost like people died and came back to life and died and came back to life because we felt it was so real that we told Moshe we can't even handle it anymore. The end of the parasha they're telling Moshe, we need you to tell it to us because this is way too powerful. So we experienced such, right? It says, Vayomeru el Moshe, they say to Moshe, Daber ata imanu v'nishma. You would speak, but daber imanu Elohim pen namut. We don't want God to speak to us because it was such a powerful experience, and we were all standing. So there's some opinions that says, let's commemorate the fact that we were standing in Har Sinai and this experience by standing when we hear it. Others say, well, I understand, I get it, but there's an issue because now you're like picking favorites, how this part is more important than the rest of the Torah, so it's better to sit. What should you do? The answer is you follow your custom. If the community custom is to stand, I think you should stand. I don't think it's appropriate for a single person to protest, like, you while everyone is standing, you're sitting. I don't think it's appropriate. However, it is worth mentioning that you're not standing because this part is any more important than the rest of the Torah. The Torah is of equal importance. It's of equal authority. It's all coming from the same God. Even if you have one letter missing from anywhere in the Torah, the Torah is invalid. Right? This doesn't make this section any more important or any more authoritative from God. The entire Torah is equal. We're standing to commemorate the experience and the episode that we had of Har Sinai. That's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is many communities and Kanisas have the custom to give the aliyah to an elder, to give it to the rabbi, to give it to, let's say, one of the elders of the community that are older and people are going to stand up to respect him. So this way you have two in one. You're standing for the Aseret Dibrot, for the Ten Commandments, but you're also standing out of respect for the rabbi. So, even if there is an issue, there isn't an issue because you're showing respect here. Again, you don't have to be worried about following the custom. There are some that say you should abolish the custom. My take is, if the custom is going to be abolished, it should be decided beforehand by the rabbi, by the gabayim, by the leaders, how we want to cancel this minhag. That's one thing. But that's not where we are as a community. We're not canceling it. So I don't think it's appropriate for individuals to protest by sitting, while kneeling, while everyone is standing, you're kneeling. I don't think it's appropriate. But I also do think, just to make things better, it's a good custom to give it to the rabbi of the community. I know in my minyan, this is something that our gabayim have adopted. They give me the aliyah. I know that you really could be raising a lot of money for it, but Be'ezrat Hashem, I think we still haven't gotten in trouble from the boards yet. We're still able to pay the bills. If we get in trouble, then maybe we'll have to start selling it. Then we'll have a different conversation. But in all seriousness, there is a beauty of giving this aliyah to one of the elders of the community, so that you're standing for Ma'amad Har Sinai and you're also standing for the giving aliyah to the elder. With that, we'll stop. Have a great week, everyone. Be'ezrat Hashem, keep in mind this upcoming week is Parashat Shekalim. We will speak about it next week, God willing. Take care, Shavua Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. Bye.